Welcome everybody tonight. We want to call to order the Committee of the Whole meeting for the January 8, 2019 meeting. You have the minutes from the December 18th meeting. Are there any additions or corrections? Committee of the Whole meeting on December the 18th. If not, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have
Second.
a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So the minutes have carried. All right. We have a special presentation tonight from Lee County Commissioner Robert Ham, and we'll turn the floor over to you, Robert. There you go.
Ron, thank you. Congratulations to new members. I understand y'all have quite a few here, and thank y'all for offering to serve. And Ron, thank you for offering to be mayor here. I know that's a big responsibility all of y'all have, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert.
I wanted to mention some of the people that are here tonight. Every project needs somebody who's going to show some leadership and help keep the books and help keep everybody straight. So we've got Roger Rendelman is here. He's my county administrator that I depend on every day to do my job. John McDonald, he's here. He's helping administrate this program. And every program needs a workhorse. Well, Karen Gaston is here, and a lot of y'all know Karen, and she is absolutely a workhorse in anything she gets involved in. So it's been a pleasure to get to know Karen and work with her. And Liza Mueller is here, and Liza was one of the first people I talked to about putting this program together. So she was very encouraging and helped with everything I needed to put this together with the shelter. So what we're going to talk about tonight is the Spay and Neuter program. And the reason this came about was because all of us know that there is so many unwanted pets that are just turned loose in Lee County, and mostly cats here in Auburn that I've seen because of the businesses that I own. But we knew we needed to do something about it. And it seemed like the problem was just getting worse and worse. So I've got a friend that's a veterinarian, and I was talking to him about it. And he said, well, I've got a friend up in Limestone County, Dr. Pittman. He said, Dr. Pittman's found a solution to this. He said, we need to go talk to him. So we took one weekend, we went up there to see Dr. Pittman in Limestone County. They had a terrible problem with unwanted pets that were overpopulating their county, Limestone County. So they had 3 cities in Limestone County. So what they did, they asked each one of the cities to put in $15,000 in a fund, and the county put in $15,000. So that gave them $60,000 in a fund to try to do something about spayed and neuters. So they talked to the veterinarians there and asked them if they would do the spayed and neuters for them at a discount rate. And they said they would. So it took them 9 years, and in 9 years, they solved the problem. And as soon as I got there, Dr. Pittman picked us up at the airport, and he drove us all around. And he said, the reason I'm driving you in circles here, you notice there's not any animals slaughtered on the road. He said 9 years ago that wasn't the case. It was terrible. So being a veterinarian for many, many years, it just crushed him seeing that. The other thing that they did was they got a very active adoption program going. So we knew that had to go with this. So he told me that he said, if you want to just use the blueprint for what we've done and then massage it for Lee County, I'll help you any way I can. So he has helped me with this, and it didn't take us long before this thing really took off for us. When we asked for the funding, we got it immediately. Now, the first year and a half, we didn't use the whole $60,000 because we didn't do a good enough job of getting the word out. So we started working a little harder on that. And in 3 years now, we've seen the spayed and neuters every month just go up, up, up. We really need to do a little bit better job of getting the word out in Auburn, and we need to do a better job getting the word out in Smith Station. So the way the program works is for families who have an income of less than $30,000, and they can get a dog or a cat spayed or neutered for $10 for a dog, $5 for a cat. The fund pays the rest of the money to the veterinarian for the discounted spayed and neuter. As we have gotten into this, we've also realized that there's some other things that can be a benefit with this. A lot of times people just lose their animals. And when they lose their animals, there wasn't a really good way of finding them. There's all these different websites, from a rescue here or there. So Lee County Humane Shelter helped us with putting a website up. And now if you lose a pet, you go right to there, and everything goes to that now. If our people out in the county pick up a dog, they take a picture of it, put it in the truck, and that picture immediately gets sent to the shelter. And as soon as they can, they put it on there, which is pretty quick. I'm not going to tell you how quick it is because I don't really know, but I know they do a good job of putting it on there pretty quick. Well, that's helped quite a bit for people finding their animals when they're lost. Right now, I'm not asking Auburn for more money. We're fine right now, but we will be asking when the fund depletes some down. I think we've got $39,000 or something like that in it right now. So as that fund goes down, I will be asking y'all to help us again. One thing that's important is these animals don't know the city limits. They don't know where they are, don't know about gates and fences, and a lot of the ones in the city wander out into the county. So if Auburn or Opelika or Smith Station or the county pulls out of this program, it's probably going to kill it. And I talked to everybody when I first started this and let them know this is a long-term project. If we don't plan on staying in for the long haul, we are wasting that money that first year. So that's kind of where we are right now. The shelter has really helped us ramp up getting the information out. That's where we're lacking right now. We're not lacking for money. We're lacking for getting the information out. So we've been meeting about once a month. There's a group of about 5 or 6 of us that meet about once a month. Have a good breakfast at Chappie's while we're at it. So we end up coming up with some pretty good ideas how to move this thing forward. Now, quick little story, and then I'm going to let y'all ask me some questions. I rent a building to a boutique, animal boutique, and they have a rescue there. So I was in there doing some maintenance. And this is a rental company that my wife owns that she allows me to go to work in every day. And need a little maintenance in one of the buildings. So I was in there doing some maintenance, and there was some pretty little cats in there. So one of them in the room I was in, I just opened the cage, let her out. You know, sweet thing. And I told her when I got finished, I said, I should take this little black cat home with me. So he said, well, she's already had shots and been spayed. I said, great. Well, they made a mistake. She hadn't. So next thing I know, instead of 1 cat, Jay, I've got 6. 5 of them have not been spayed or neutered. 4 of them are females. So now I got to go get all of them fixed. Well, I don't qualify for the program. So it was quite an expense getting it done. But I do have 6 cats running around my shop right now, and I very much enjoy them. But that was 3 years ago. Now, if I'd chosen not to have them spayed, that's 5 cats there. 4 of them are females. Probably every year they're going to have a litter. You can do the math right quick and see where this is going. So this is why it's so important that we keep this going. And we can fix this problem, but we just got to stay diligent on it. So with y'all's support, I very much appreciate it, and we can keep this going. So if y'all have got any questions for me, I'll be glad to answer them.
Robert, we appreciate your passion for this and your interest for this. And
Thank you.
all great ideas take somebody to get them started. So thank you. And thank you all, your staff, everybody that's supporting you. How does someone find out about this? You said you've got kind of a PR challenge you're working with right now, but if somebody had this, they felt like they qualified, who would they call? Who would they contact?
Well, they can call the animal shelter, and they have been the biggest voice for getting the word out for us. When we first started this, Ron, they wanted to be part of this program, and I was not happy with the severed relationship that we had with the shelter. And part of my goal here was that we repair that relationship, and Liza just reached out and helped me with that. So the shelter told us that, well, look, everybody else is putting money in. We don't have any money to put in that kind of money, but what we will do, we'll help you with the information, and that's exactly what they've done. So now that we've got some ideas on how to move this thing forward a little bit better, I feel like the program is really fixing to ramp up. So they can call Opelika Animal Hospital. They can call Buddy Bruce's office in Opelika. He takes applications. Dr. Hunt does. And just about every veterinarian in Lee County, and it may be every one, participates in this program. You have to get qualified and you get a voucher. And then if you're qualified and you pay the $5 or $10, you get a voucher and you take it to your veterinarian. But you have to make sure that veterinarian is on the program. And as of right now, I think all of them are.
How many animals over the course of a year have been spayed or neutered under this program?
I'm going to ask John to answer that.
Since the beginning of the program, there's been approximately 640.
And what's the, I don't know if you want to disclose this or not, but what is the discounted rate that, the difference that the program has to pay to the vet?
I think it's about $50 that they knock off of it. Hang on a second and I'll give you the rates that they charge. To neuter a dog, it's $110. To spay a dog is $115. Neuter a cat's $80, and $50 and $110 to spay a cat.
Was the 641, is that for since the inception of the program, or is that for year to date?
Inception of the program. Okay.
That's since we started. And we got a very, very slow start. I think the first 6 months, we virtually did almost nothing. But we really got to where we got some information out. People started finding out about it.
Are all the expenses strictly allocated for the spay and neutering, or are there other expenses, like do you have marketing expenses, or do you rely upon the municipalities in the county to help with that, or?
That's a good question. We, the money for this, there's no administrative cost. The county agreed to absorb that in the very beginning. John does a very good job of taking those vouchers and getting the veterinarians paid immediately. And we told them in the beginning, I went to their association meeting and asked them about doing this. And, you know, when we got finished, one of the veterinarians in the room stood up and said, is there anybody in here that doesn't want to do this? Not a person said a word. So they all got in. As the new veterinarians have come into town, then they have been encouraged by the ones that have been here a while to help with it. Beth, there is a fee that is for if the animal has not been vaccinated. By state law, they have to be vaccinated before they can have spayed and neutered on cats and dogs.
So it's an added benefit to the program?
It's $15, and they have to pay $15 for that. The program does not pay for the vaccination. We've thought about in the future possibly including that, but right now we just want to get our numbers up before we make any changes to the program. The cutoff for being eligible for this is $30,000 a family. makes under $30,000. And we have on the application, it's very simple and non-intrusive on how we find out that information on what their income is. Try to be very respectful of that.
Is there a frequency with which individual could, if they got a new pet and they fall into that, can they get another voucher? Or is there a
Yes.
limitation?
Yes. Good question. A lady called me about 3 weeks ago, and she said, I just got a terrible problem. And I asked her what it was, and she said she lives not too far from one of our collection sites where people throw bags of trash in. Well, they also let their animals out there, and they end up at her house. And she's very passionate about animals not being hungry, so you can imagine what this lady's going through, and she can't stand to see one hungry. So the next thing you know, she's got all these cats and dogs hanging around her house, and she said, I can't let them keep multiplying, and can I bring them into the program? We said yes. And we talked about that to begin with, limiting it to 3 or 4, something like that. And we decided, no, that's not going to solve the problem we're trying to solve. Because if you've got 6 cats and you only are allowed to have 2 of them spayed or neutered, you hadn't solved anything. So that's why we did that.
Questions from the council?
Are all 4 municipalities, the 3 cities and the county, all participating actively? I know they funded you, but what about the usage rate or if you
Yeah.
take advantage of it?
Kelly, that's another good question. The least amount is in Smith Station, and we attributed that to the fact that they just don't know about it. So we decided that's an area we're going to target. We went to talk to Dr. McCoy, Superintendent of Education, and did a presentation to him, told him why we were interested in getting this information into the schools. And of course, if y'all know Dr. McCoy, he's very protective of those children. He loved it. He said, oh, we need to let them know about this. These kids need to, at a young age, need to know about this. I thought, good. So we're working with the Lee County school system as well. I thought I'd kind of do that one first, make sure that was going to work out on the system, and take it to Mayor Fuller, same thing.
I applaud what you're.
Anything else from the council? Robert, thank you, man.
You're
Thanks for
welcome.
all your good hard work. Thank all
You're
y'all.
welcome. And thank y'all for serving.
Yep, thank you, man. Okay, next on the agenda is a discussion about the Rosa Parks Day holiday. Councilman Dawson, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Mayor. What I initially wanted to do was to see if we could declare a holiday honoring Mrs. Parks, since the state had passed a bipartisan bill legislation where that was possible in the state of Alabama. But since then, from Manager Buston, I got some information that it would cost over $130,000 to declare a holiday, and I don't feel like it'd be money well spent given our current needs in the community. That being said, I do think we need to do something to honor Mrs. Parks for her courageous actions she took. And she really kicked off the civil rights movement. And I was asked, why are you doing this? I can only imagine if it had been my mother that was expected to get up and let some man say, "I'm black or white." I don't think that'd been fair to that lady, and I admire her for the stand she took. And I think we need to be one of the first cities here in Auburn to do something to honor her for doing that. And I've been contacted by most of the city council members, and Ms. Taylor come up with a good idea, I think, and also City Manager Buston has expressed some good ideas. So I'd like to take a minute and get Ms. Taylor to talk about what she was thinking about us trying to do, and then maybe City Manager Buston can talk about some of his ideas as well.
Well, after Mr. Dawson called me and he wanted to discuss it with me and everything, and I did do some research on it, and I talked with the state representative to see how they handle the holiday for the other cities. And there's a lot of cities that the majority of the cities don't celebrate it as a holiday, but they do a Rosa Parks Day. Now, one of the things that I was, and I haven't really discussed this with Mr. Buston yet, but I had with Mr. Meyer, with the mayor. I have asked the council to consider putting a library in Boykin Community Center, and some type of satellite library so that people in that area could be it could be convenient for people there. And I would like to name that library, Rosa Parks Library. And maybe, if that passes, then we can probably have the library to do some type of day that the city and the council can, do some type of celebration. And I think the day for the Rosa Parks is December 1st. So, doing that, so if they name the library Rosa Parks, well, that's honoring her, but then we can choose December 1st to do something at the library in honor of that day.
Good.
So that was a suggestion that I made.
Mr. Buston, you and I talked about some of the ideas you had.
Right. We did ask staff to kind of think about this and come up with some ideas. The library was one of the ideas that came up, but not the one that will eventually go up Boykin, but one of the staff members suggested that a possibility of the new outdoor area that is being developed at the current library, that be named after Rosa Parks, and then they had some similar ideas of having a special day on December 1st that celebrates her and has programs around her life and her history. Another staff member came up with the idea of the greenway that's being developed through Northwest Auburn around Sam Harris Park, and that way to be named that after her, and then similarly have a day that celebrates her, but through that mechanism, there are a variety of different options that we could consider, and staff is willing to look at all of them and then bring them back to the council and see which one you would prefer to do, and deliberate on it that way.
Thanks, Jim. Connie and Tommy, I would sense from the council level, and I haven't asked everybody, but is everybody on the council okay with moving forward with a day in Ms. Parks' honor?
Yes.
Having a day in her honor. So, Jim, how could we get together and kind of work out the mechanics of that, of what we want to entail in the day, and if there are some opportunities to name something for Ms. Parks, how do we identify what that is? How should we go about doing that?
Let us come up with some suggestions, and then you all decide, because I think if we have a naming and then have that day of celebration based on around whatever we do, if we do a library naming, or if we do the or even the new area behind Boykin that we're going to be developing, the new outside area, that could be named. It just depends on what you want to do, and then the day of celebration would be around that naming, whether it's a library or a park or whatever.
And if the rest of the council would agree, I think it needs to be a situation where it's educational environment, where we talked to Ms. Whitten earlier tonight, where young school children can go and learn about Ms. Parks and the sacrifice she made and things she did, because I think we stand a danger in this country of forgetting some of the sacrifices that have been made by our ancestors in the past, and I'd like to see it in a learning environment where they can be taught exactly what she did and how hard she worked to kick off the civil rights movement.
Okay.
And Jim, as you're making suggestions and coming up with some options on what we could do, perhaps we could consider a day of service as well, and a dedicated day where the city kind of pours all of its assets into a single focus area, and do that on an annual basis as well.
That was one of the suggestions as well. We do have a neighborhood cleanup day, and we might focus that around a Rosa Parks celebration type thing, and a day of service around that. That was another suggestion.
Good idea, Kelly. Okay. This is good stuff. Thank you, Tommy, for bringing this up initially. Thank you, Jim and the staff, for putting some thought and time into it. Thank you, Connie, for your thoughts as well. Okay. All right. We'll move on to Board of Zoning and Adjustment, and I'll turn this over to Mayor Pro Tem, Ms. Whitten.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have 2 vacancies for the Board of Zoning Adjustment. We have 2 incumbents. Both have served 1 full term. One has served 1 partial and 1 full term. We'll start with the first one, which is the supernumerary, and that position is currently held by John Huff. He has reapplied and is seeking reappointment, and so my recommendation to the council would be to reappoint John Huff to a 2nd full term for the supernumerary position.
We have a motion on the table for Mr. Huff. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor of Mr. Huff, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll appoint Mr. Huff on the regular agenda.
And then the second vacancy would be for a full term for a normal member of the BZA, and that is currently held by Clint Wilson. He is seeking reappointment and has completed an application, and so my nomination for that position would be for Clint Wilson for a second full term.
Have a motion for Mr. Clint Wilson for a second term. Got a second on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries, and we'll appoint Mr. Wilson during the regular meeting agenda.
And I would like to add that we did not have any other applications for these positions.
Good, okay. All right, thank you, Beth, for your hard work. Okay. Questions on the agenda for Mr. Buston?
I have a question. It relates to the roundabout on Cox and Wire. Been getting a lot of calls about congestion and accidents in that area. When do you anticipate that actually getting started where we can actually see people out there working and getting something done on that, Jim?
So assuming that the council passes it this evening, AlDOT will then make a determination as to whether they are going to manage the project or they're going to let us manage the project. If they let us manage the project, we figure about 6 months from now to start construction. If they're going to manage the project, it'll probably be about 9 months from now. But they will let us, assuming it passes tonight, then we will work with them to schedule it as quickly as we can. And it'll all depend on whether they're going to manage it or us.
Thank you.
And they make that decision.
Thank you. Mayor, if I may, this is not on the agenda exactly, but it ties together. The red light at South College Street and Cox Road, had it approved for, I think, close to a year now, but I hadn't seen any movement on it. When will we see some movement on that?
Right, we bid that in September. We got a contract signed in October. Then it had to be designed. The design was finished in December, so it was then given to the manufacturer to create. Manufacturer tells us it'll take 20 weeks to build it. So we're looking at May, probably May before that gets installed.
Well, that ain't what I wanted to hear, but I guess, one last thing out there on Cox Road on Interstate. Is there any possibility of getting some street lights out there? There's places, I like for all you on the council to ride out there one night and just see what it looks like out there. It's very dark. It's a dangerous place. It's dangerous for anybody to be out there. And if there are any, I'm to the point I want to plead with you, if there's any way to get some lights out there in some shape, form, or fashion, I'd really like to see us do whatever we need to do to make that happen. Because that's, and you commissioners, county commissioner here tonight, you can help out as well. So I really would like to see some lights put up down at that interchange before we have a bad accident.
We can look at the part that's in the city.
Yeah, it is an AlDOT controlled area, and we've approached them multiple times about lighting, unsuccessfully to date, but we will continue to emphasize that.
Is there anything the citizens can do to we can write the governor or something? I tell you, if you're a citizen, you want lights out there, write the governor, let them know we need them. You county commissioners, I appreciate you doing the same as well, especially you, Johnny.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's all I got, Mayor. Thank you for
Thank
indulging
you,
me.
Tom. Yeah, any other questions?
Mayor, we do have one item, item 10A. The applicant has requested that item 10A be removed from the agenda, so that will not be on tonight's agenda.
So let's just go ahead and talk about that just for a second. So this is the Corandino property. I know there might be people here that obviously want to, are interested in that, and we're prepared to speak at a public hearing. So this has been pulled from the agenda. So go over exactly what that means for the future of this project. What happens now?
So basically, this request from the applicant is dead. Should the applicant want to do something else, then the applicant has to start the process again. So assuming that, let's say that the applicant comes back and decides that he wants to just build single-family houses there, he would have to go back through the process. Now, it is by right allowed single-family houses, but he would still have to go back through the process, get preliminary plat approval, get final plat approval. All that would be done by the Planning Commission. If he were to come back with some other idea that he would want, it would have to go through the planning commission, have to go through the whole process again. So by withdrawing it tonight, that particular request is dead.
Does there have to be a period of time before he can restart again?
He can restart immediately on some other request. There'd be a period of time before he could come back for conditional use approval on what he asked for tonight.
Okay, so is it fair to say, I'm going to try to summarize this, and anybody please correct me if I'm incorrect on anything. So once he tables it and pulls it tonight, he could come back, and if he wants to do what's permitted, then that will be a planning commission scenario only, and the city council will not hear that.
Correct. He would actually have to start again with planning department, go to the planning commission, but because it is by right, it would not come to the council.
Okay, so for those of you who are here tonight that came for this, there will not be a public hearing around this topic. If you would like to talk about this, since it's not on the agenda, you can certainly talk to us about it at the end of the meeting during the Citizens Open Forum. You're welcome to talk to us about that. But there will not be a public hearing because this has been pulled from the agenda, okay? Does everybody understand it?
Yeah, but
Sure,
I want to ask another question.
Yep.
I hear you say a period of time. What is the period of time that he can come back? We talking about 6 months, a year?
I think it's a year if he's coming back for this particular thing.
For this specific application, yes. You could start a new application tomorrow.
Right, he could start a new application, like I said, if he decided he wanted to not build this, but build single-family.
He could come back.
start that tomorrow, but
Right.
it has to go through the process.
But if he wanted to come back with this same,
The same thing, it would be a year from now.
okay.
I have a question on that, Jim, is we're still, this housing classification, academic detached, is that something that he could build there in this time under the guise of single-family detached, a single-family dwelling?
I don't know if it would be approved or that the council, or that planning commission would approve it, but I think he might be able to. I'll let Megan address that.
We've received no such plans at this time, so this is under Planning Commission consideration for this Thursday, and you'll see it assuming Planning Commission moves it forward, you'll see it in February. It would be tremendously difficult to get a set of plans approved that we have yet to receive for such units.
So basically, since he
timeframe.
has not given us plans to do that, Planning Commission will be addressing at their next meeting the 5-bedroom, 5-bath unit. It'd be unlikely that he would be able to build that there should Planning Commission recommend or develop that ordinance.
Right. Because I think there's this growing concern in the Northwest that somehow, by some way or shape or form, academic detached or student housing is going to find its way in there. And that's the reason we have the amount of people here tonight. So just so that we're clear that it doesn't seem like it's a done deal.
Well, but yeah, I would say you can't ever determine what you, the council, are going to do as a body, what the Planning Commission will do as a body, but given the time frame, I don't believe that he would have the time to do that. But again, I don't know.
One other thing to keep in mind, I had just discussed with Assistant City Manager Kelper, is that the property's not subdivided at this time, so you could get about 1 unit on there without subdividing it before we would have to deal with this to meet the academic detached dwelling unit criteria. So there's a lot of other laws that we have on the books that would protect that from happening, let alone just a regular plan submittal.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Buston regarding the agenda tonight? If not, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So the Committee of the Whole is adjourned, and we are after 7, so Lindsay?
Dawson,
Here.
Dixon, Griswold,
Here.
Kobe,
Here.
Larson,
Here.
Smith,
Present.
Taylor,
Here.
Whitten,
Here.
Anderson.
Here. You please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
Right, yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Okay, this is the first meeting of the month, and this is when we recognize so many people who do such a great job on behalf of the city, and so I will come down and go through that.
We do
That's
that.
what he's doing now.
Okay, but will we be able to? I'm talking, Flex, I want to make an announcement.
Yeah, that's
Okay, is Mr. Tim Sylvester
doing
here?
the same thing. Let's, to the end of
This is a
this.
memorandum from Becky Richardson, Parks and Rec Director. Tim Sylvester is a parks maintenance worker assigned to Kiesel Park. So big, but I can't see you on TV. His primary assignment is mowing, trimming, trail maintenance, dog park maintenance, and other items in the park. The park is 127 acres, and he is responsible for all of that maintenance. Tim is very responsive to the people that use the park. In addition, he handles the regular maintenance so effectively that we have received feedback from several of the regular users of the park as to how much better the park is being maintained compared to the past. His regular pruning of the trees along the trails is also consistently noticed. He is also diligent in making sure that the areas for weddings and other events are mowed, edged, and looked at. In July of 2018, the beautification crew was moved to Public Works as part of the reorganization in the city of Auburn. Tim has embraced the challenges of also handling the maintenance of the gardens at the Nunn Winston House and working with the Auburn Beautification Council and the master gardeners with their gardens. This fall, he removed an overgrown hedge that had been planted as a divider between the Nunn Winston House and the master gardener's garden and replaced it with new plant materials. He also helped the ABC with their replacement of the fencing and benches at the Rouse Corley Garden and the updating of their plant materials. He recently replanted the base landscaping around the pavilion at Kiesel and added camellias in front of the Nunn Winston House. Tim is very knowledgeable about horticulture, and the parks crew and cemetery crew are utilizing Tim for his advice as they take on the beautification responsibilities of the parks and cemeteries. This has resulted in additional flower planting in the parks and cemeteries and camellias being planted in Town Creek Cemetery. Tim has real ownership of his position with the city of Auburn and has at times notified public safety when he has been made aware of something at Kiesel Park that he felt like they should know about. For this reason, along with outstanding work product, I would like to recognize Tim as the January Employee of the Month. Thank you so much. There you go. We have a couple of service awards from Public Safety. Dale Knowlton, 10 years. Okay, and also from Public Safety Police Division, Mike Roberson, 25 years. All of our police do a great job. Mike's in our school, working with our children each and every day. And we appreciate you, Mike. Thank you.
Mayor, a quick story on Mike.
Go ahead. I don't know what he's gonna say now.
Years and years ago, the reason we had to hire Mike is because he outran me as a young patrolman up there by Crystal. So I figured if I could run that fast, I need to be a police officer. So we recruited him. You flat out run me that night.
All right, we have a special employee achievement award, so will Stephen Hicks please come forward? This from Penny Smith and Allison Edge in our finance department. We're pleased to announce that on Saturday, December the 15th, 2018, Stephen Hicks, the accountant, general ledger, and finance department, received his Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration, Accounting from Auburn University, Montgomery. Stephen began his career with the City of Auburn in 1999 as an administrative assistant in the finance department. In 2002, Stephen was promoted to the accountant position that he currently holds. Stephen has been an asset to the finance department and to the citizens of Auburn during his tenure. He is a conscientious accountant that is dedicated to ensuring that the city's general ledger provides accurate and reliable financial information. Congratulations to you, Steve, on this great accomplishment. The staff and citizens of the city of Auburn appreciate you, man. This is a special resolution, so I would like to ask the members of the J.F. Smith group, please come forward. Got some other, got a motley crew tonight, don't you? Y'all okay? The resolution. So whereas the City of Auburn Cemetery Advisory Board desired to make improvements to existing cemeteries, especially those older than Town Creek, and whereas Jerry Smith of the J.F. Smith Group donated the services of his firm to provide a survey and feasibility study and a plan for raising the funds for cemetery improvements, and whereas the J.F. Smith Group comprised Jerry Smith, Donna Harper, Bob Adams, John Slayton, Megan Augustine, and Steve Jankowitz, all right. Provided much of the preliminary work for the campaign to raise funds and joined with Gwen Reed, Wes Williams, and John Salem to raise $410,725 in pledges, of which $239,000 plus has been received for use towards Memorial Park, Westview Cemetery, Pine Hill Cemeteries, along with Town Creek. So whereas their fundraising efforts resulted in multiple improvements to our cemeteries, including irrigation, grassing and landscaping at Memorial Park, paved parking, drainage improvements, and a new entrance and landscaping and irrigation at Westview, driveway paving, drainage improvements, entrance enhancements, and new lighting at Labyrinth, is that how you pronounce it? All right. And seating area at the flagpole, landscaping and marker and fence repairs at Pine Hill, and new signs at all of our cemeteries, along with funds for additional work in the future. Now for there be resolved that the City Council of the City of Auburn would like to recognize and thank the Jerry Smith and the J.F. Smith Group employees of Donna Harper, Bob Adams, John Slayton, Megan Augustine, Steve Jankowitz for their donation of their services to the fundraising for the Auburn Cemetery Fund, as well as Gwen, Wes, and John for their time spent on raising funds for these cemetery projects. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be spread upon the minutes of this meeting and presented to Jerry Smith and this group, adopted and approved the City of Auburn on the 8th day of January. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Congratulations, y'all. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Let me just thank the mayor and thank the council for partnering with us on this project. It was a great project, it was a team effort, and I want to thank Becky Richardson for her leadership. But it was a joy to do this, and we appreciate all your help. Thank you very much.
Thank y'all very much. Thank y'all. And we have a retiring employee, 30 years, environmental services, Donald Baker. Donald?
He's not here.
All right, Donald's not here. Did he send a family member? Okay, all right, we'll get this to Donald later. Okay, in the committee of the whole, those of you who weren't here, we really talked about a couple of different things. Mr. Robert Ham, Lee County Commissioner, gave us an update on the Spay and Neuter program that the county oversees for folks in lower income situations. Mr. Tommy Dawson, we talked about the Rosa Parks Day, and the council will be looking into having a day for her, and we'll also be looking at opportunities to name something within the city for Ms. Parks. And then we appointed 2 gentlemen to the Board of Zoning Adjustments that we'll confirm here in just a little while. So that's what we did on the Committee of the Whole. As far as announcements this evening, I wanted to remind the community that I want to get their name right. It's the Association of Public Administrators host a MLK, Martin Luther King breakfast every year on the morning of Martin Luther King Day, and that'll be on the 21st of this month, and it's at the Hotel and Conference Center. It's always a great event, and we certainly encourage those in our community to join us with that on the 21st. I believe, Jim, there's still tickets available?
I believe there are.
I think there are, okay. The Student Housing Task Force is ready to go, and I wanted to announce tonight the members of that task force. As we talked about earlier, that will be led by Councilman Tommy Dawson and Councilman Jay Hovey, and these following members of the community will also be serving on this task force: Courtney Revelle, Lady Cox, Wayne Bledsoe, Aubrey Gullidge, Ray Huff, Jack Atkins, Nick Hayes, Trey Rankin, Don Allen, and Jana Jager. And it's my intention that that group will be meeting very soon in the near future. We're very excited about the work they're going to do. Student housing is an ongoing topic in our community. We do believe there's an opportunity here in the next month or two for the university to have some plans that we can all understand and work with over the next 5 to 8 years, and that'll certainly be part of our deliberations, but that group needs to get started, and we'll get started here this month. I was fortunate yesterday to go over to Project Uplift on campus. This is the National Mentoring Month, and we had some photo opportunities over there with Patsy Jones from Opelika City Council. Just want to mention that, what great work they do. Once again, this is another situation where our students of Auburn University really play a major role in a nonprofit success, and I'm certainly thankful for our student body and what they do, but this is a great opportunity for children who need some help and need some adult figures in their life to be a part of their life, and I encourage people, if you feel led to do that, to be a part of that. And then this Friday, we'll be taking a photo with some members of Auburn University. January the 11th is Human Trafficking Awareness Day, and that is something that is noticed around the state, and so we'll be bringing some attention to that on Friday with a photo as well. The information I've been provided says that within the next few years that human trafficking will surpass drug trafficking as far as crime in the United States, so it's something we all need to be aware of. So from a mayor's announcements, that's all I have. Are there any other council members that have announcements tonight?
I have an announcement. Ward 1 will be having a community meeting at 5:30 at Boykin Community Center on January 31st, 2019. And the guest speaker is going to be the Director of the Housing Authority, Ms. Sharon Torbert. And she's going to present to the community as to the future of the Housing Authority. So if you would like to come out and listen, I would invite everybody to come out and listen to her vision of the Housing Authority future.
Thank you, Connie. What was that date again?
January the 31st, 2019. And I would like for that to go on the e-notifier.
Got it, girl. All right. Anybody else from council? I know, Kelly, you had something.
I'd also like to announce my monthly board meeting. Mine will be on the 29th of January be at the Harris Center, which is across the street from the post office. It'll be at 6 o'clock. And we'll have a special presentation as well, and be a discussion on the problems we have with construction site runoff, how to mitigate those problems, how to go about reporting those problems, and that kind of thing. And the city staff's been very kind to provide somebody to talk about that. And I'd also like to compliment the city staff. I've been receiving lots and lots of communication about the intersection of Richland Road and Shug Jordan and the completion of the intersection, about the need for some temporary lighting and striping and whatnot to make sure it's more visible until the final product is complete. And I'd just like to give my appreciation for y'all's responsiveness on that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else on the council?
Mayor, we're also having a meeting Thursday night, 6 o'clock at RV Park, Mathen Host RV Park on State 14 at the clubhouse. Citizens of Ward 8 to discuss the Conway development on Wire Road.
Okay. Thank you, Tommy. Anybody else? Okay. One announcement I do want to finally make, the mayor has the authority to appoint to the Auburn Housing Authority, and I have reappointed Robert Smith to the Auburn Housing Authority. Robert has an extensive background in finance. He's been on the board of the Alabama Housing Finance Authority, and Sharon Talbert asked me through a letter to please reappoint Robert for the work they have upcoming. If you have any questions on that, let me know, but Robert Smith has been reappointed to that. I know school starts for Auburn tomorrow. I'm not sure if we got any students here for Auburn University Communications. Do we? Okay, good. There you go. I'm sorry. I didn't see you, Dane. We get the president tonight. That's good.
Thank y'all. For those of y'all who don't know me, my name is Dane Block, currently serving as the SJ president. But as Mayor Anders said, school is starting tomorrow, so we're coming off a great break, trying to rally the troops, just finish this year strong and tackle another great semester. Moving on. SEC play starts with basketball this Saturday versus Georgia. So we're working with the athletic department as a student body to kind of just ensure that the experience through the game day, parking, transportation, whatever it may be, is the best that it can be. Also, one last thing, as our term is coming to the end, at the beginning of February, you'll start seeing campaign signs around campus. It's a really great time for the student body to voice their opinion and elect the SJ president, the SJ vice president, and treasurer. So be on the lookout for that. But in the meantime, I guess the lines at the restaurants are going to be a little bit longer because the students are back in town. But thank y'all.
Okay. Thank you. We're glad to have y'all back. Okay, so this will be time for citizens' communications on agenda items. So if there's anything on the agenda tonight that you'd like to talk about, please come forward and give us your name and address for the record. Remember, you have 5 minutes, but this would be on the agenda, anything that's on the agenda tonight.
Of course, everybody know who I am, but Bishop Douglas is my name. I stay at 618 Howard Street. And even though this is on the agenda and it has been taken off, there's still some concerns. The concerns, Mayor, is that I do know, because I served on City Council for many years, that even though this has been withdrawn, there's no law saying that they can't at any time bring this back up to the Planning Commission. And we need to understand that the Planning Commission only makes recommendation. The sole power lies in this council. You chose many years ago, even when we was kids in school, they brought this council manager form of government in. When Lindbergh Jackson Sr. and Mary Brooks served on the council, we had a mayor-council form of government, and we was kids. But to say that this cannot come back up, we need to protect our community from this. I talked to some of the developers who has developed over by Councilwoman Taylor's house. They said that they was building single-family homes, but when we got down to it, it looked like single-family homes, but they're building 5 bedrooms, 5 baths, and we all know what that means. That students are going to be moving into what look like is single-family dwelling. But it's basically camouflage for student housing. Now, our district is depleting. We never had a predominantly black district in Auburn for years. Everybody knows that. What we had is we had a predominantly black district with children and all that, but voting age, the students still can outvote us. So we got to be concerned about it. And I know Mr. Jackson brought up gentrification, and a lot of our people didn't even know what gentrification means. So we need to discuss that, and I know I don't have much time to do that tonight. But I looked it up, and I'm going to come back and let our people know what it really means. It means that a certain group of people targeted our deteriorated area in our community. And when they target it, they bring in middle class and run the low income peoples out to suffice another place to live. And as a community activist and a civil rights leader, I cannot sit back and allow that to happen. Now, we got almost 700 views when we went and we talked about the streets and the houses over there by Connie, what they building. Mayor, you need to get this council, and some of you council members who have not been through our community. You go, something is awry. You go look, and you see for yourself what's happening in Northwest Auburn. We're slowly dissipating and eradicating this community, where in 2020, when the census come in, where we going to find enough people to suffice our community? So we got to be concerned, and we do know that even though kind of this is withdrawn off of this agenda, does not mean, that's why I stayed, that they cannot bring it up again. We've dealt with this property before, and here it is, we're dealing with it again. It's been taken off the agenda, and this is a inert trash dump. And if you look at the law, some of you new council members, and see that you cannot build anything but a park like Sam Harris Park on a trash dump. And I advise you not to use Mary Park's name on a trash dump, because that's all it is. When you Sam Harris Park, you dig down and below that ground. I was on the city council. It's a trash dump. And it sufficed that. That's what we can build there. You can't build in the single families homes on there like they did on Pleasant Avenue and Connie intended for you to see. They built some of those houses on the trash dump. And if you look on the side of the road, you will see the trash is expelling from some of those houses that they built. So, Mayor, you need to look at that and see that we don't need to let that happen again. So I'm concerned, Mayor, that you look at the law and let us not allow this to be built. No more student houses in our community. And we can change that by rezoning to NC zoning, and with specification that none of these houses can be built that's going on in our community. And I think, Mayor, you got a heart for this city, and I believe every city councilman on this city council today have a heart for all of Auburn. That's why you ran, and that's why we're asking you to support us and making sure this doesn't happen again.
One question I got, Bishop,
Yes, sir.
and maybe you can educate me on this.
Yes,
What's the difference in what they're trying to develop on Judd Avenue and what they develop on Backline, which is West Glen Avenue, which you were in full support of?
Yeah, let me tell you. And the reason why, and that's a good answer, the back line was changed, and you can look at it, to university services on the 2020 plan. And on the 2020 plan, everything across the track, and you can look it up, university services. We agreed to that because it was growing fast. And my grandmother prophesied long years ago, because I was born on the back line, that one day that land was going to be for the university services, and it happened. She has been living today. She's been 119 years old. That happened. I got an aunt. Thank you for coming to her. She's 100 years old on the other day. We drove all the way from Florida. So, yes, I support that because it's university services.
I've heard people complain about not supporting what's being built now. I don't have, I personally, I think I'm leaning toward not supporting it on Judd Avenue, that area. But I'm not 100% either way, but thankfully it's been removed, so I don't have to deal with that. But I fail to see the difference. Backline was a historical site for the African American community, and the west side over there, the tracks is as well. I just fail to see why we want to go one way for one area, but we want to go another way for another area.
And I just named that, Tommy, because it's university services. you look at it, yeah, this council, Barbara Pitts, a lot of them years ago when I read it, they agreed to it that it would be university services. Over where we're living at now is not university services. That area, that Judd Avenue, is for single-family homes, and that's what we had said that we wanted to be built. If you go to Opelika, you look and you see Opelika is building and it's balanced. They building for low to moderate income housing in Opelika, and I know they don't have a university, but what they're building in Opelika is what we need in Auburn. Not just build sporadically, like they're going to build off of a Bird Street in that little piece of property and squeeze about 5 or 7 houses in it. Now, city, you know you don't supposed to be owning land. That's one of the things that we need to look at, and you need to look up, Tommy, how much land does the city own? And if the city owns land, it is illegal. They cannot own land and use it for family building. They must, and I said this before, they must auction their land off and let developers build land. And I also asked a question about community block grant money, and I was told that they're going to use the money to build housing. Now, you look at what community block grant money is used. It made to develop, diversify, and to restore the houses already there. It's not my understanding in the years I served, 16, 20 years I served, that we could not use the monies for building houses. But now I'm told something changed. Is that, Mr. Buston, can you use the monies to build houses for community block grant money?
I would have to get that information.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Well, I guess one of the things that I if you don't mind, I want to just say this. The property over on Judd Avenue, now, I do have a problem with them building any type of housing over there, simply because I do know that there used to be a landfill there.
It is.
And I also know there used to be a pond there. And it's kind of dangerous for a developer to come in and develop an area that's hazardous to the community, whether it be $200 to $1 million homes or whether it be student housing. I do have a problem with that. So even when the developer comes back to the table, I need the planning commission to understand or do some research on that property there. Because it's going to be a hazard, not only if they put student housing there, it's going to be a hazard to anybody who purchased the homes. And I don't care what the price of the house is. So that is one of the things that I would like for the planning commission to do research before they actually vote it up or down.
And once again, Mayor, and I know he was there, once again, Mayor, the sole power lies in the council. The recommendations of the planning commission is okay, but the council must make their decision based on the information and what their constituents say. Now, Dick Starr did go over there and feel that on Judge Street with a lot of inert stuff, and I watched him and he filled it up with also a lot of trash dumped. The same thing that's going on down there on 29. That was supposed to be, when we voted, an inert landfill. And some of you council members just go down there and ride. They got stuff stacked up to this building, and it's not inert, it's not trash. It's a trash dump. That's when we voted, and you go back to the ordinances of revolution, you see that we voted that they would have an inert landfill, and it done turned into something else. You go out there, you look at the water, you got all kind of oil and all kinds of stuff running in those streams. You go down there and you check for yourself, and let's see, we following the 2020 plan, are we doing making these people do what they say they're gonna do when we vote? And Dick Starr, anybody, they're not above the ordinances and the resolutions that we pass in this city. So I'm saying that, you know, when this thing come back up, vote it down, because we do not need student houses in our district, and Councilman Taylor is right, because that is an inert landfill, and they got trash, stumps, and everything. You build on that, those houses are gonna sink.
Hey, Mayor, if I ask
Sure.
questions.
Yeah.
Don't they have to do tests on the
Right, whoever builds on it would have to have to pass all of the environmental.
Pass all the
stuff.
ADM
That would be after that. I mean, if someone brought something to be built there, then the environmental stuff would have to be
pass.
satisfied.
Exactly.
Right.
Good afternoon, Council. L.B. Jackson, 814 North College. I am going to talk about Richland Road a little bit because I've been very adamant about it.
Lindbergh, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is this on the agenda?
Yes.
Richland Road is?
It is not on the agenda. Richland Road is not on the agenda.
I need you to wait to the end of the meeting for the open
Well, let me just shift gears from there and let me go to the issue of the landfill. I want to say that I've done some research on, because it's in Northwest Auburn, and there's been a lot of concerns from different people about it once having been a landfill, and I just happen to have lived, and as a Boy Scout, I camped on that particular site. It was a campsite for the Boy Scouts, most of the blacks in Auburn, and there was a pond there, and there was a drowning there. And I have done some research to check into it through the EPA and also through ADM, because of the fact being that there's several issues being raised. The EPA didn't come into existence until 1980. Before then, these type sites, dump sites, was regulated by our local health departments. And they were the regulatory agency that kept up with what was going on in terms of these type of sites. Well, due to several people dumping all kinds of things and as asbestos and lead poison paints and other things in different places, the EPA came into existence and they started to regulate. So they took that power away from the local county agencies, and what they have done is they kept a list. And if a landfill is closed, it has to be closed in a certain manner, which ADM now helps to regulate that. And they have records, but there is no records as of today that I've spoken with 5 or 6 different people at ADM. There is no records as of today of it having been closed. So this landfill supposedly that is there, someone has to file a complaint because you guys are the closest regulatory agency that will be able to stop or test. There's a K1. There is a order, as Mr. Buskin said, once a developer comes in, but this developer hasn't filed for any testing of the soils or anything there. So therefore, there's no knowledge of it. So right now, as it stands, this very well could be a ticking time bomb to our groundwater, to our soils. If people should move in, like Councilman Taylor said, and things start to happen and people start to getting sick and everything, then people are going to look back at that person that is the ward leader or whatever, or the council or the planning commission. So I officially, based upon the people in Northwest Auburn request, I officially made a complaint. So now the EPA is looking into what it was used for, looking into who the previous property owners was, and possibly what was dumped there. And so now we're dealing with the environmental department for the state of Alabama, the EPA, and ADM. So in the future, I would like to say to the council, tread very softly about this particular matter and issue of development in that area, because of the fact being the people in Northwest Auburn, where maybe none of you guys lived and watched that particular project turn into a landfill or a dump site, and it's a Title D because it wasn't being regulated. And before it can become a brownfield, there has to be certain things done. Before it can be closed, there has to be certain things done. So I ask you guys as the council to tread very softly as you go forth with the Planning Commission or any other approvals on that particular site, because the people are watching and waiting to see what you guys do, and me for one. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak to an item on our agenda?
Ken Busby, 280 Ivy Lane. The resolution for boards and commissions, I would ask that the council table that until your monthly meetings. Listen to your constituents. The majority of the people I talk to are against not having a requirement for boards and commissions and non-residency. And I would ask that you go and talk to your constituents about it and find out from them exactly what they want. I put out a poll on Nextdoor in the Auburn area. 96% of the people are against having non-residents on boards and commissions. That's an overwhelming majority.
Out of how many people? How many people responded to your poll?
There was 113 responses, but I mean, that Nextdoor is not a large app, but it was the only thing that I can find the numbers to just Auburn. Facebook doesn't allow that. Anybody could get in there and do it. So.
Well, anybody can be on Nextdoor app as well.
Well, they can, but it's your app, you can restrict it to the people that are living in those areas. You have a check down list whenever you create a poll for target specific areas in the app.
Sure, but anybody can pick those areas to get information on and respond. They don't have to live in Auburn to.
I guess so. I thought it was based on your location whenever you log into the app. But still, I mean.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, city manager's communication.
Under City Manager's communication this evening, we have item 7A is the announcement of one vacancy for an unexpired term ending May 31st, 2019 on the Board of Education. The appointment for this position will be made at the March 5th, 2019 City Council meeting.
Okay.
The next item of business this evening is the consent agenda. Does any council member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda and deal with that item individually?
Anyone? If not, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
A second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I encourage our community again to go through and look at these items on the consent agenda, to know that we've talked about them. We've all looked at them ourselves. We're trying to make our meetings more efficient. That doesn't mean we're trying to blow through things. So if you see anything on here that you'd like to talk about, please don't hesitate to do that. Okay? All right, Mr. Buston.
Under ordinances this evening, item 9A is the declaration of a severe weather preparedness tax holiday for Friday, February 22nd, 2019 through Sunday, February 24th, 2019.
I'll introduce the ordinance and ask for unanimous consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Does anyone on the council have a problem moving forward with this vote tonight? Any questions? Lindsay?
Dawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Griswold,
Yes, ma'am.
Hovey,
Yes, ma'am.
Parsons,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes, ma'am.
Taylor,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
I guess yes, ma'am.
Under resolutions this evening, we have item 10A, which has been withdrawn by the applicant. Item 10B adopts the procedures for appointment of members of the various City of Auburn boards and commissions.
I will move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anybody on the council have any questions or discussion? Yes.
Okay, well, as most of y'all know, I was on the Boards and Commissions Task Force, and most of the things that we have put in this resolution I'm especially supportive of. The revised application process, the screening matrices, the interview process for key boards. But unfortunately, the procedures fail to provide any prohibition of non-residents or non-electors of Auburn for being considered or even selected. As some folks think it's just the Planning Commission, but in fact there are 8 boards and commissions that have no residency and/or qualified elector requirements. That includes the Planning Commission. So I believe that requiring all boards and commissions to be staffed exclusively with Auburn residents is key. That was one of the recommendations of the task force, and without that provision, I cannot support the overall resolution, and I will be voting no.
I would also like to speak, since I was the other part of the task force, and I would like to commend the work that both Kelly and myself and the council as a whole and the constituents that were a part of the process. We had multiple meetings. We had multiple discussions. We even had a very lengthy work session that I think demonstrates exactly what our role as an elected official is, and that is deliberating after extensive research and coming to consensus. And it's my understanding from our last work session that as a body, we came to a consensus on these points. And I respect that if, as an individual council person, you may not have, you may not be in agreement on specifics, but the consensus was that we did not want to limit our role as an elected official, but that as a culture of this council, we would weigh heavily residency and membership on more than one board or commission and length of tenure, which is part of the this resolution. So I think the trust is in us as an elected body to make the right decisions, and the issue at hand has only been an issue twice as regard to residency. And so I think the proposal or the proposed resolution that we have in front of us is a great body of work with extensive effort that has gone into it, and I'm personally proud of it, and I think that it will be a great framework moving forward. And it's my I believe we can all hold ourselves accountable and each other accountable when it comes to actually voting on individuals. And again, residency will be weighted very heavily.
Any other comments from the council?
I appreciate the work the task force put into the documents, but I do tend to agree with Ms. Whitten. I would be shocked if somebody outside the city limits got approved any boards or commissions with this council. But I think that's when you deal with it, and I have enough faith in the council, everyone on the council, that I would be shocked if anybody was appointed that lived outside the city limits. Just don't see it happening. But I agree with the argument made during the meeting by Councilman Smith. I think he made a strong argument for it. I think you don't want to limit yourself as a governing body. Should the event come where someone was really qualified and would really do the best job for the.
Thank you, Tom.
I appreciate y'all's work too. It's really quite a rich document that you've made, and I think the process will be great. But I can't vote in principle on the issue of residency. I believe this city has a wide pool of talent from which to draw. And but thank you so much for the great work you've done.
Anyone else?
Well, I'll speak up too, and I think we all appreciate the process and the effort and the work put in by the task force initially, and frankly, the work session and the conversations before or during that original draft, and then after our conversation at the work session. I think the work session really outlined and proved, what we're here to do, to reinforce what Beth says. We're here to draft the best option for the citizenry as a whole. There are parts, we're picking on residency requirements. I'm not a fan of the interview process for school boards and planning commission. I think, and I say fan, I'm saying take issue with parts of it, but, frankly, we all work together, to come up with the best solution that we could kind of, see as a compromise or something that we could work with. And, I think that, as a whole, the effort that we all put in to come up with some sort of resolution was in our best effort, and I appreciate everyone's comments.
Thank you, Jay.
Mayor, would be a fair assumption if we didn't vote in support of this resolution that we would just default back to our prior. And regarding the Board of Education appointment, we wouldn't have the interview process that we agreed to in the consensus, and we would be throwing out the matrix and the grading system that we had incorporated, that we were going to incorporate for people that were applying. We'd go back to the system we had before.
It's never been used before, yes.
Okay.
The intent of this task force was to streamline our process and to provide a process that our community understood it could follow. Part of our resolution says the City Council desires to provide an open and transparent process for board and commission appointments that will encourage citizen participation in their local government while promoting diversity and inclusion. I appreciate Kelly and Beth's work on this. They dug in. They weren't given a lot to work with, except some past experiences, and they dug in and they came up with a document for us to adopt tonight. We are a body of human beings. We'll see if this works, and if it needs to be finessed and tweaked in the years to come, I hopefully will be brave enough as a body to admit that we need to work forward towards a better document. But this is what we have here tonight, and I'm grateful for the work that they put into this. Okay. All right, so we do have a motion and a second.
Well, so I'm with Brett now, so we're basically agreeing to either ratify the work that was put in by the task force in our work session or not, and go back to the way it was, the way it currently is, right?
Without an interview process.
So, I mean, that's, I hate to throw the baby out with the bathwater, on your matrix and everything involved, but I mean, if that's what we're talking, I just feel like I can nitpick too, if that's, and I don't mean that with all due respect, but that's frankly fine.
Now, we've worked hard on this, and all of y'all have spoken to it, and I believe everybody that's wanted to has spoken to it, and we do have a motion and a second on the table. Okay? Is everybody ready to vote?
No, I have a continued comment. There's absolutely nothing that says that we can't use some of the tools that we developed even under the old process. The old process was that a single council member massaged the applicants and made their recommendation. Well, a single council member today can still do that using the tools that we've developed. So it's not completely reverting back to or throwing everything out. There are still products that we developed through this task force process and through the massaging that are available to use for, if we don't vote for this, there are still tools that are improved tools that we could use. So it's not a wasted effort, even if we voted this down.
Well, and I certainly don't think it's a wasted effort. Like I say, I just love the conversation. Like I say, even if we did go back to, I think the ultimate goal, with the task force and our work session and the whole, conversation on boards and commission was to have a conversation and to open it up and to make sure that we were doing our best to be inclusive and as a board or as a council to be inclusive of everyone up here. So, I agree, and I'm not saying it's. I think if nothing other than having the conversation, in the open, our work session, and your work was certainly successful in that and bringing it to the forefront, just as so not that it was all for all.
Mayor, if I may ask a question too, if it were not to be passed, what would be, we've got a Board of Education appointment. What do you anticipate the procedure at that point on taking in applications? And I guess everyone then would have the opportunity, we would not have the interview process, and we would just, do you have an idea at this point what that would look like?
No, I don't have an idea. We would have to regroup quickly and make some determinations this week. We've made an announcement that there's an opening for the Board of Education that would normally be filled in time for the February meeting. They've already agreed not to have a fifth member of their board for the February meeting. And so we would have to be moving quickly if we wanted to revise this resolution.
And Mayor, if I may add, I want to commend both Councilman Whitten and Councilman Griswold on this, and the council. I thought our work session was wonderful. We sat for two plus hours discussing this issue, and I was very happy to hear that was, to me, our job as representatives, as council members. We debated the issue, we flipped it on its head, we discussed it, we looked at the pros and cons. I'm very supportive of what we came up with. I think it's a wonderful action moving forward. I think it is transparent. I think it has to do with inclusivity. I think it pushes us to invite more people to be involved. One of the biggest things for me is it provides an opportunity to get best talent for our volunteer boards. Because at the end of the day, to me, these are volunteer boards with volunteers. We're not compensating them for their position and progress and what they're doing on these individual boards. They're giving their time to better themselves, their community, and the city of Auburn. I did not come from that meeting with anything more than that. Is exactly why I wanted to be on council, because we were representing the city, we were discussing the merits, and I thought we did a wonderful job. I think the task force did wonderful with what they came up with.
Yeah, thank you.
Again, I appreciate all the views and the argument that we may eliminate some talent if we restrict our processes. But as you said, the people want to come together to represent their community. Folks that live outside the city are not in our community. That's my point.
But I disagree, but because, I mean, we have people who are a part of this community who may not reside in Auburn, but they work here and they've built businesses, they employ people, they may have their children in private school, they go to doctors and dentists and grocery shop and play and go to athletics. And I mean, so to state that someone who does not live in our community is not part of our community is, I think, a very bold and dangerous statement to make.
My take on it, how I've arrived at my position, is that it's my job to represent the views of those in my ward. And I have found the people in my ward have clearly are the majority have said that they don't see the necessity to have people outside of our city participating in decisions within our city. So I just feel like I'm doing my job as a representative.
And I just want to
Part of
say,
your job.
and I just want to say too, because I'm sitting here quietly listening, but I guess it has not been an issue in Ward 1 or consideration to the constituents in Ward 1. But when we was having our meetings, I agree with Kelly and Bob, simply because I feel like if a person is going to serve on a board or commission here in Auburn, they should be a resident of Auburn. And that's my take on it. And I mean, just like Bob said, there's talent here in Auburn. And I don't know if we're not advertising it for it to get out to the public so that these people can come in and qualify for these jobs. You know, this is my first time just really being on the council. I've never seen an application to come out in Ward 1 asking people to be on these boards and commissions. So, you know, so I'm a little confused here, but I also know that I do feel like that they should be residents of Auburn. So
Certainly, Connie, as we move ahead, it's important, and I think it's been an important conversation we've had through this process, that we need to do, exercise every available tool to us to announce these appointment opportunities. This does not need to be something that's hard to find. If people are interested in serving their city, there ought to be something that they can bookmark, that they go and check every week to see if something's being announced, that it's coming open and available in the near future so they can apply. I do think it's also incumbent upon all of us as representatives that when we see these opportunities coming forward in the future, that we're thinking about people in our community and or our wards that would be great servants of these roles, and that we're encouraging them and having conversations with them and talking to them about potentially pursuing some of this. I think that's one of our responsibilities as elected officials is to help fill the roles with some of those people that will seek some of these positions. So, does that need to be better? Absolutely, Connie. Do I think we've made an impression that needs to be a greater effort? I do, and I believe that we'll see that moving forward. I really do. But I appreciate what you're saying, too.
And that is a key part of this resolution, is the announcement portion of that. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I think is going to be helpful is having an annual open house to encourage those who are interested to come and learn and understand the roles and responsibilities of each of the boards and commissions. So,
Well, I would like to see it get out maybe some type of advertising, because I have had people in my ward, since I've been on the council, has asked me about some of these positions, and they don't know how they, can qualify for the positions. And I'm not talking about ignorant people. I'm talking about people, educated people who would like to serve on some of these boards. But I also see some of the stipulations too, on some of the qualifications. I'll put it that way. Some of the qualifications, it makes it sometimes impossible for some people to qualify for these positions. So, and I know that's probably different from what we're talking about being Auburn residents, but it all goes together. So, I just feel like they ought to be Auburn citizens. If you live here, you have an interest here, if the word is out, and I think now, since it's being streamlined, then more people will know that these vacancies are coming up and they can apply. So, it's not in the dark anymore.
That's what we hope.
Jim, what is our advertising policy right now on boards and commissions? What mediums do we use to advertise those?
We use the press, we use social media, we use the website. As you were speaking, I think that one of the things that reminded me we had discussed is that as you all are having your ward meetings, it would be a good idea that we have the paper that you all receive in your packet to be handed out at those ward meetings, so that people that come to them know that these are the boards and commissions coming up. You have that we give to you, and that would be something we could probably prepare for each of your meetings as well.
Isn't it in the open line as well? I believe
It's in open line as well.
Yeah, so every water bill gets a copy of it.
And now Open Line is online,
There you go.
right?
It will be online. It is online. It also will be online as of tomorrow if you pass this resolution this evening, which lists all of the qualifications as well in that for each board that you go to apply for.
I can see your point, saying y'all be a citizen of Auburn. That being said, I don't want to be limited, because if I'm telling you now, if I do what my constituents want as well, if someone is nominated for the planning commission that lives in the planning commission zone, but it's not a citizen of Auburn, if I get 100 emails and 100 phone calls from my constituents saying, I want you to support that, Councilman Dawson, I'm going to support what the constituents want. And I don't want to be limited to where I say, well, I can't support it now because we passed this deal where we can't have anybody outside. I want to be where I can do what my constituents want, and I can see where it could happen in the future. It probably won't happen, but it could happen. When if I get overwhelming majority of my constituents want me to support somebody, I'm going to support them, because that's why they elected me.
Well, and two, I think it's good that we clarify for the public as well. My understanding is it was two boards that had there was a residency requirement based on state law regarding the boundary for planning commission. That being that we have some authority over certain areas within a distance, and that there may be a need for representation. It's also my understanding that that's only occurred 2 times in the history of Auburn, so I don't know that that's a major problem. Secondly, I think that's the Industrial Development Board as well, and they have certain distances longer than the city limits as well. Mr. Griswold brought up 8 more boards. I'm not aware. I know that we have the Lee County Development Authority or agency that's probably a county-wide, so that would make sense to have outside city limits. So I just want to be clear that it's not a free-for-all as to someone in Anniston could apply for a board in the city of Auburn. The state law says that for planning commission, you can have somebody, and that's occurred twice in the history of Auburn. The IDB has its own limitations, and if there's more, maybe Mr. Griswold has that list. I don't know.
I do have a list, but it's apparent that everybody's got their mind made up here. But if you want that list, I'd be happy to give it to you. Building Board of Adjustment, Cemetery Board, Green Space Board, Historical Preservation Commission, Lee County Youth Authority, Library, Planning Commission. So those are the ones that have no requirement for either residency or qualified elector. So, but after the conversation, at the end of the day, we mentioned our supposed consensus after our work session. At the end of the day, we still vote up and down, on a candidate.
Right.
So whether they live in the city limits or not, decide whether or not that's an overwhelming factor for your vote. And, pick a criteria
we still vote up and down on the candidate. And so limiting, and I'm beating a dead horse, Ron, you're trying to call for a vote, but.
You go ahead, you finish, man.
The point being, it's still, by not limiting it to any of these hot button issues, we're not limiting our talent pool, but we get to make a decision based on the applicants. And so if that wants to be your sticking point, so be it. But we all, get a vote here at the end. And, I appreciate the work done and efforts put in, and so many other things are outlined in this resolution that are worthwhile.
All right, anybody else? All right, so we do have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay?
Okay.
So do we need a hand count? You got it? Okay. All right, so the motion carries.
Mayor, those are all the items we have on the agenda this evening.
Thank you, Jim. I'm sorry to interrupt you. All right, any other business from the council? Okay, so we'll move into citizens open forum. This is an opportunity for you to talk about anything on your mind. This is a 3-minute opportunity. Please come forward and give your name and address for the record, and remember you have 3 minutes.
Yes, Lindbergh B. Jackson once again. I was cut off about Richland Road, which at one point in time was your district. It's still one of those pet peeves. I was authorized by the Church of God by Faith to speak on their behalf. Mr. Buskins and some others have questioned that. I am puzzled how we can spend $1.7 million on an intersection, and because of the fact that the city gave to the church a set of plans that says final approval, which was a bogus set of plans, and offered them what they offered across the street without an appraisal, the appraised value of a property that the city wanted to take. And when they failed to agree with the city's plan, and the city has to go back and get reapproved through the state, when they failed to approve, then the city took away a double drive where stacking may occur in front of the church. They took away a wall. They took away railings that was going to protect the parking at the church. And everything that was in that contract is no longer getting done as a punishment to the people at the church. Plus, there is a mid-block crossing Shug Jordan Parkway, going up Richland Road in the direction of Highway 14, Martin Luther King, where the kids have to travel at their own risk to cross back and forth on Richland Road. I think that's a very injustice to the people at the church, to the people in the community. And Ron, I cannot remember not one occasion, as much as I complained about that, I cannot remember you addressing it. So I hope as mayor, when you say, let us work this thing out together, I hope that you will support something that will encourage sidewalks and something that would make it right for the church, because it looks a hot mess on that side of Richland Road where Judd Avenue intersects there, where there is potential problems and et cetera. We don't know what's happened to the money that was allocated that's not getting spent. I heard from the engineer just a couple of days ago, oh, we have an overrun on the project. So guess what? I guess that money went back across the street. Councilman Taylor has volunteered for monies for the sidewalks to be extended to a certain degree, and I think that the church is well deserving of fair and equal treatment in terms of an appraisal. So council, I beg of you guys and look to you guys. And Ron, you as the mayor that's working things out with us together, I look for you to work with us on this issue. And Councilman Smith, I will be speaking with you about it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Dana Camp, 142 Plainsman Hills, Auburn. I just wanted to say something a little bit more about the Corradino property. That property is currently zoned RDD. There's a whole host of items that can be built in an RDD zone that is conditional. So it could come back as other things. In addition, your new academic dwelling detached unit that you all will see next month, I believe, that's going before the Planning Commission this Thursday. It is also conditional use in the RDD zone. So an academic detached dwelling unit can also be built there. This piece of property, because I did some research today, in the future land use plan, if you go on the future land use map that is available for all citizens to look at, the future land use plan has that piece of property designated as neighborhood preservation. I would suggest that y'all look at zoning that as neighborhood preservation, because that's the only way these citizens are going to prevent other things being built there than single-family homes.
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council, Herbert Walter Denmark Jr., 412 Opelika Road, Apartment 111. This is somewhat related to the decision that you all made tonight on Resolution 10B, I believe it was, about the boards. Does that include the Diversity and Inclusion Task Force? Because I have an interest in serving on that one.
Yes.
It does not. Okay, that's all I had.
And thank you for having an interest, because we're looking for people with interest.
Because some certain groups such as PFLAG and the Rainbow People community, to make a long story short, are interested in getting involved. And of course, I would like to get involved too, to help them and fellow black people too, so.
And just let me say this, one of the reasons why we didn't bring up the diversity and inclusion, Stephen Dixon is out and I think he's ill, and we're working, this is the month that we're going to be working on this diversity and inclusion task force, but you know, we have to consider his illness first. So, but I'm glad, thank you for bringing that up, and if anybody else interested, I would like to know that, and I like your information, because we want to start somewhere, and we're ready to get started. I think we're supposed to be meeting with somebody next week, another group next week.
Monday night.
And so, you know, any input, we'll be glad to.
Just to clarify, so what we passed tonight are official boards and commissions from the City of Auburn, okay? The Diversity Task Force is not an official board or commission of the City of Auburn. It's a task force appointed by the Mayor of Auburn to listen and study and process information that might lead to something in the future, but we don't know exactly where it's going to lead right now. And just to elaborate on what Connie just said, we're in a real big listening mode right now. So we're trying to meet with a number of groups and hear their stories and hear their concerns and hear their thoughts and ideas. And then I don't know what will end up coming from that at the end of the day. But we do feel like we're aggressively and attentively listening to people who have stories to tell about experiences of living in Auburn. And that's what we're trying to do right now. Okay? It might end up being something official, but it might not. I just don't know right now. Okay? All right, anybody else?
Hello, Council. My name is Timothy Nordemeyer. I'm a reporter for Opelika Auburn News. Kind of what I want to raise awareness for tonight is an article that I wrote titled Northwest Auburn Residents Interested in New Regulations. I apologize, I'm a little bit nervous. Pretty much what I wanted to talk about was I made a mistake in that article. I didn't add context at the very beginning that actually got certain city employees in trouble, especially the planning director, Forrest Cotton. And I feel responsible for that, and I wanted to apologize for the confusion. I assumed that, and that was where I made my mistake, that in the article, I made it clear that he was addressing the Planning Commission. It sounded as if he was addressing residents of the city. And I just wanted to apologize for that because I believe that everybody is trying their hardest to work together, and I pride myself on being someone that values honesty, values cooperation, especially as a journalist. So thank you very much for letting me have time to speak about that and apologize.
Thank you, Timothy. Thank you.
I'd like to say I worked with a lot of reporters throughout my career, and you're the only third one to ever apologize for anything. Appreciate that.
Yeah, you can be commended.
I'd like to say I appreciate that very much. I appreciate you working towards us for a better day tomorrow in Auburn and finding a place that we have common ground to work towards instead of taking positions of trying to tear apart or argue or put us in place. I appreciate that a lot. It's nice that we do have a common ground that we can work towards making Auburn better for each of us. Thank you.
And I also want to thank you for apologizing for the article, because I am one of the ones that had a complaint from a citizen in my ward that took offense to it. Well, not just one person, but several people. And sometimes I've just doing different type of trainings and stuff at work. When you write in something, read it over and over and over and see what it sounds like to you. And maybe it did get blown out of proportion, but the thing about it is, when people reading stuff, they read it in a way that they feel like it's been said. So thank you again for apologizing for the comment that was made apparently by Mr. Cotton, because I think I maybe took it out of context myself. So thanks again.
Okay. Anyone else? Commissioner Lawrence?
How are you? We're having an interesting evening tonight.
Be careful, Tommy will give you an order again.
He's already given me orders. Good evening, Johnny Lawrence. I live at 3327 Mooresville Road. I've been in mixed up about who I represented, sometimes, and I think it's kind of neat the way you guys are approaching some of your duties. First of all, congratulations to all of you for getting elected. Number two, thank you for offering yourself for service. That is a big step, and I appreciate very much the fact that each of you has chosen to do that. I really came to compliment you tonight on your agenda. Not that the previous council didn't have a nice agenda, and of course the county commission has a great agenda. You know how that works. But I like the way it flows. I like the fact you have interaction at the beginning as well as the end from the public. I will challenge you on one thing. I listened to y'all talk tonight about people who are in the city limits and people who aren't in the city limits, and then I get the issue of, well, we're talking about the county, and we're not talking about Auburn and Opelika. Well, if you look at the map, it's very, very distinct two areas in the center of Lee County, which are Auburn and Opelika. We are all one community in reality. I would challenge you that when you consider people for positions, and I'll use the Planning Commission as an example because your reach with the Planning Commission extends past the city limits. I think there's times when it might be appropriate to have someone who is not necessarily a resident, but might have that level of expertise you're looking for. We all share appointments to a number of different boards, hospital board being one, the youth development center is another, and so we all get to have our input as to the flavor and to the texture and to the makeup of those boards. So I challenge you to continue the discussion. I like the discussion tonight. It was civil, at least in here it was civil. I know how that goes sometimes. Many of you, if you haven't been around this very long, some of the conversations outside of the arena may become a little more colorful. But I do appreciate the fact that y'all interact, you're honest with each other, you speak to your convictions. I appreciate that. And most importantly, again, I want to thank y'all for putting yourselves forward, and I invite discourse between our body and your body and so forth. I'm here informally. I came tonight because Robert was talking about the dogs, cats, and the ferrets. In case you didn't know, it's not just dogs and cats. Some fool threw ferrets in there many years ago in the legislature, so there's part of it too. I'm down to 2 seconds, and I certainly, Jim, would not want to extend past my time. But again, thank you. We look forward to working together to accomplish a lot of things, and we can do that. And so have a great new year, and we look forward to seeing you.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you for your service too, man. Anyone else?
Excuse me. I'm William Dean, 474 Scott Street. I want to commend you, one, on this resolution you passed tonight, but I'd like for you to expand on it a little bit. It is a resolution, and it is, a working document that can be changed at the next council meeting. So the city, it came to me when I've heard both sides of the story, and there's a lot to be said for both sides of the story. I'm not real from Opelika originally. I'm not sure I want somebody in Opelika serving on the Auburn Planning Commission or vice versa, and some of the other commissions too, and Beauregard, Lochapoka, whatever. These people have their very specific interest for their communities, and being on one of our committees would be a benefit to them and their community. So we need to look at that. But the real thing what I wanted to present, and I guess I should have done it in citizen communication, is that, like I said, I'm glad you passed the resolution, but you might consider in your new citizen survey, which they do every year, put this question in there and just see what the citizens of Auburn are really interested in doing. Because if the citizens of Auburn are not happy with it, I think all 9 of you need, 8 of you tonight, but 9 of you need to know that. So, and you might want to amend your resolution at that time. But I think you did a good thing by passing it tonight, which does allow the new changes for the school board and other ones that are coming up right now, which I think are very positive changes. Thank y'all all for doing that. So. But like I say, you do have that big citizen survey every year, which guides the city in every direction. I think that'd be a good place to put it.
Thank you, William. Anyone else? Oh, Lord, get ready.
Yeah, hi, Nick Hayes, 333 Brookside. Want to kind of hearing people talk, hopefully pass along some information that's helpful. Folks talking about possibility of single-family residential on the Corradino property, and encouraging folks to talk to Planning Commission and talk to council about, if that were to come about, how to regulate it. I think it's important for everyone to understand, if a single-family subdivision were brought, or someone wanted to develop that on that property, it does not go before Planning Commission and does not go before City Council. So you all would have no ability to regulate, and it seemed like the public thought that Planning Commission and you all would, but the reality is you would not. And kudos to the reporter for being brave and owning up, to the miscommunication, but there was an error, which some of you and I have discussed. And this is complicated stuff, so I totally get why he may make it. But in that article, it was framed as though the Corradino property and the academic dwelling unit ordinance would somehow be connected. And the reality is it isn't. The academic dwelling unit does not apply to the Corradino project in any way whatsoever. It would apply to that property because of the zoning, but projects like the Corradino project and the academic dwelling unit have no bearing on one another. So 160 Ross, 191 College, the Boulevard Avenue, Creekside, the Corradino project, none of that is affected by the academic dwelling unit ordinance. I think a lot of people think it is. I had a real estate broker today ask me about one of those projects and how academic dwelling unit would affect it, and it doesn't. So anyway, just wanted to make that clarification.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, if not, do I have a move to adjourn?
So moved.